guys, I'll be continuing with the installation and configuration of Citrix Storefront Server and high availability. As you can normally see, Citrix Storefront servers normally sit in the access layer. So we'll be deploying two of the Citrix Storefront servers on Windows Server 2019 OS in the lab. So let me get back to my Zen server. I've already pre-populated and I've already got the Storefront servers uh, completely patched. They're called CVAD SFO1 and CVAD SFO2. So let's jump on CVAD SFO1. I guess the first bit that we need to do is before we start off with the install, we'll install the wildcard SSL cert, which I have created using my internal CA. I'll just get that installed on SFO1 and SFO2. I've already downloaded it. So I'm going to browse and open up the console for certificate and use a computer account. So I'm just going to drill down to my personal store, click on certificates, and I'm going to import the SSL cert, the wildcard SSL cert, which I've already downloaded onto this machine. So I've already exported a PFX format, so I can install it on the relevant boxes. Click on open. I click on next, and to import it, I just put in the password. I don't want to make the key exportable. That's not recommended. Your security team won't like you if you do that. So make sure you untick that. Click next. We want to make sure that yes, the SSL cert is getting installed under the personal store. Click on next. Click on finish. And as you can see, the import was successful. I should be able to see my SSL certs that are successfully imported. And there you go. As you can see, that's the uh, FQDN, the wildcard SSL cert, which has been issued. I'm going to put the root cert in the trusted root certificate authority domain. Close that console. I'll repeat the same steps on the other box as well, which is CVAD SFO2, which is going to be my second storefront box. Open up the certificate console on this box, click on computer accounts. And I'm also going to import that same cert on this other box as well. I browse the location where I have got the wildcard PFX format already installed and put in my password so it imports it. Click on next, and I need to just make sure that it's getting imported in the personal store, personal computer store. There you go. That's great. I can see it. It's there, and I'm going to have the root cert of it uh, copied across the trusted root certificate authority store. Right. So pre the prereqs are all done and dusted. So now let's get on with the installation. So I'll log on back onto SFO1. I've already downloaded the ISOs for CVAD uh, 2402 LTSR. So I'm just going to make sure that it's been mounted on that box. And as you can see, I'm going to run the installer from the D drive. I might pause the video at times just to make sure that you guys don't have to normally wait that long. So I might pause and restart it back again so that you don't have to go through that entire process of installation. So I click on virtual apps and desktop, and this should normally present me with various different components that would need to be installed. In this case, we need to have Citrix Storefront installed. So we'll be clicking on Citrix Storefront. I'll accept the terms of the licensing agreement and click on next. It's going to deploy a few of the prerequisites for IIS. So I'll click next onto it. And as you can see, it's going to install a version 2402 CU1. All right, it's going to go through the steps of installing the prerequisites of IIS and get the storefront installed. I'm just going to pause the video for a while now, and I'll come back once the installation is complete. Okay, as you can see that the installation of Citrix Storefront has just completed successfully. I'm just going to click on finish and it will ask to reboot the virtual machine. So I'll just click on yes. I will rinse repeat the same procedure on SFO2 as well. So I'm going to mount the ISO on this box as well. I'll click on start virtual apps in desktop. And hopefully that should bring up a wizard which allows me to install Citrix Storefront. I click on Citrix Storefront and do the same steps that I did on my SFO1 box as well. So hopefully this should normally start off the console, the installation console, and it will have all of the prerequisites like the web server role IIS installed onto it. I accept the terms of the licensing agreement and click on next. And I'll click on next to install all of the IIS components. I'll click on install. Okay, as you can see, the storefront has been successfully installed on CVAD SFO2 as well. We'll click on finish and I'll click on yes to reboot the virtual machine. As the VM is getting booted, let's log on to CVAD SFO1 as that's already been rebooted and I've logged back into that box. Uh, so the first step that we're going to do up here is we're going to do the initial storefront configuration and then we will normally add the O2 as a part of a server group on the storefront server. So I'll just make sure that SFO2 comes up before I start off with SFO1. Let's click on Citrix and I'll click on Citrix Storefront. And as you can see, this is the console that you will normally get as a fresh install. At this point, we are creating a new deployment. So we'll normally be creating on the option where it says create a new deployment. We'll leave the base URL as it is because we'll normally revisit back again when we come in and load balance the storefront servers on the Netscaler. So I'll click on next for now. So we'll be creating a new store for storefront. Uh, we'll click on next. We'll just create a store called store. And I want to make sure that I set this receiver for website as default, as IIS default, and I'll click next. Uh, in his next step of delivery controllers, we have not yet got our delivery controllers as configured or installed, but I've already got the base. I know what the names of the delivery controllers are for the entire Citrix stack. So we'll just go ahead and add them at this point. So I'll click on add and I'll make sure that it's just called and desktop. I'll click on add up here and I'll add the FQDN name of the first DDC, which is going to be CVAD 01. Doing okay. And I'll also add the other one, which is going to be called CVAD DDC02. And I'll make sure that the transport mode is set to HTTPS because I want to make sure that the communication and from the NetScaler to the SNP is on 443. So I'll leave that as 443 and I'll do an OK. I'll click next. I'm not going to be enabling remote access at this point, so I'll keep that turned off and click next. In the authentication method, I'm going to select domain pass-through, and I'll also be selecting pass-through through Citrix Gateway. And click next. I'll make sure that I have these checkbox ticked, and I'll click on create. So at this point, my store for Citrix is going to be created. So I'll just wait for it to complete finishing the configuration of the store. As you can see that the store has successfully got created, and I'm just going to make sure that I click on finish. At this point, I'm just going to be clicking on server group and I'll click on add server because what I would like to do now is I would like to add CVAD SFO2, which is the other VM as a part of SFO1. So I'm going to copy the authorization code and I'm going to log on to CVAD SFO2. I'm going to be opening up the console of Storefront on the other box. And once the console opens, this time we want to be selecting add, join an existing server group rather than selecting create a new deployment. So I'll click on join an existing server group. And in the authorization server, we'll normally put in the name of the first box, which is CVAD SFO1. And I'll just paste the code. 56387314 and click on join. So hopefully, at this point, if everything goes well, the server CVAD SFO2 will normally be a part of the server group of SFO1. So you can see that the joining server group stage will automatically start. And every single config that we normally do, so we do the config on SFO1. And once the configuration is done, we manually propagate the changes from O1 to O2. So whatever changes you do on O1, you don't have to normally go and do the same changes on O2. You can literally do it from that one box itself once this O2 is a part of that same server group. As you can see, the server has successfully joined the part of that. So CVAD SFO2 is now a part of that multiple server deployment. I'll click on I'll click on OK and I'll close the console. So from now on, whatever configuration that I normally do, I normally have to make sure that I do the configuration on O1 and not on O2. So I'll jump back on O1 and you can see that, oh, failed on one or more. Okay, let's do an OK to that. There's one more prerequisite that needs to be done is we need to make sure that there are a couple of service accounts that needs to be a member of the local admin group. So we'll check that to make sure that it is. Okay, that looks right. So I need to make sure that these same groups are a member of this as well. So on O2, I'll double check that. And once in there, so that looks all good. So I'll click on SFO1 once again and try to do a manual replication once again as it has failed. So uh, on the server group, I'm just going to click on propagate changes and I'll click a yes. So it will try to propagate the changes once again from O1 to O2 with whatever config is not being propagated properly. As you can see that the propagation completed successfully from a CVAD SFO1 to CVAD SFO2. I'll just do an OK to that. And there you go. You should normally get to see the propagation has been completed successfully and is in sync. And it will also tell you, with the server on what time and what date as well. Okay, now let's go to stores. The next step that I would like to normally do on the storefront servers is normally with the latest version from storefront 3.9 and newer, the customer experience improvement program automatically gets enabled by default. So I prefer to normally disable that. So there is a registry key that needs to normally be enabled. So you go to HKey local machines, software, Citrix, telemetry, CIP. And we just create a new D word in there called enabled. And we make sure that the value data is set to 0, which means it's disabled. And I'll do the same on the other O2 box as well. Create a new D word, enabled, and the value of 0. That looks all good. Going back to O1, there are a few configuration that needs to be done and on this box. As you can see, the storefront is using HTTP and not HTTPS. So we need to make sure that in IIS we have set, uh, we made sure that we got 443 enabled. So open up Internet Information Services. We already know that we got these SSL cert installed. So I'll click on my default website and click on bindings. You can see that I don't have HTTPS in there. So I'm going to add HTTPS and I'm going to be selecting the SSL cert, which is the wildcard one that we installed as a prerequisite and click on OK. Click on close. And if I do a refresh quickly, that option would normally go away. Oh yeah, it's because the storefront URL is that. So what we can normally do is if I click on stores and change the base URL and we click in there. I know what we're going to be calling this. So I call it storefront. And when OK up here. And there you go. So storefront is using HTTPS. Now, as we have done this change on this one box, we need to propagate the same change on the other one. So I'll come back to server group and I'll propagate the changes. Click on propagate changes and click on yes. And this should automatically successfully uh, pull down all of the settings from 01 to 02. As you can see that propagation has completed successfully. I'll click on OK. And in my next video, I'll normally in the next series we will start off with load balancing these two Citrix storefront servers that we have installed in the same server group, and we'll load balance it on Netscaler or for the receiver for website site. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Hasta la vista from Citrix Sage. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.